Welcome back, folks. So we're going to take a look and see just how well Monsieur Joyeux is at concealing miniature miniature statuary. So, uh, Monsieur Joyeux, if you please, your conceal check.
Don't roll like me tonight.
Yeah, I've got a. I already plugged in a 1 and a 2 for stealing attributes. How many black dice is this going to be?
What are you wearing right now? That sounds terrible. I'm so sorry. What sort of clothing
You're
do you
on a
have
webcam.
on? What sort of clothing do you have on that would help you conceal said statuary?
Well, Joy is wearing, I imagine, traditional suit as per the norm.
Mhm.
I mean, he would have given his overcoat to
Mr. Straub. Mr. Straub.
Yes,
Right.
I would have just said the butler.
That's fine.
So suit, jacket, waistcoat,
Okay.
kind of suit and tie.
Okay. All right. So I'll just give you a 1 black die on this one because I mean it's bulky, but I mean you can kind of
Yeah.
maneuver it in such a way
So
that
is Victorian clothing.
yeah. There you go.
This week on InnRoads Plays, stealing things.
Stealing things. That's right. All right. So you got 3 successes. Very good. That
Nice.
statue disappears. It is gone.
What statue? I don't know. I didn't see a statue.
Never seen it
Didn't you
before
see a
in my
statue?
life.
I never saw a statue.
In all my
What's
days,
a statue?
I've never heard of such a thing. What sort of contrivance is this? So, okay. So the three personages of Mr. Straub, Mrs. Torbo, and preceded by Mrs. Henry Doyle, descending the stairs now, Dove, heading your way. And so they're talking back and forth, and Mrs. Torbo is saying, "I do think that the authorities would be much more equal to the task." And Mr. Straub says, "Could you imagine the controversy for such a thing, Mrs. Torbo? No, do not trouble them."
I'll interject and just be like, I assure you, our agency is very good at how do you say, and he totally knows how to say this. He's just really playing up the not as smart as as he actually is. So how do you say keeping it quiet?
Mrs. Torbo doesn't seem overly impressed, but
Good. That's my intention.
so, in fact, she says she mutters something in German under her breath, but Mrs. Doyle just steps forward. She seems to have recomposed herself. She's kind of back to being that I want to say stoic, but kind of serene, a serene presence about her as she descends the stairs. And Mr. Straub kind of he motions you to get out of the way, Dover, so he can get to the doors, and so he steps up and slides the doors open. And what does he see at this point?
Has Carolyn woke up yet, or is she still passed out on the couch?
She's moving a little bit, but right now she's still kind of out of it somewhat.
Okay, so I'm assuming Loom is still over there attending to her.
Right. So, okay, and so Monsieur Joyeux is standing near that scene, I would imagine, along with Miss Russell, right?
Yeah, I imagine in the concealing he would have scooted away from the area
The
where
scene of the crime.
this so-called statue was.
The so-called.
If there ever was a statue there. If there ever was. I'm not saying there was a statue there.
I'm still up in the air about that.
Hypothetical statue.
Yeah.
Hypothetical statue.
I don't think so. Yeah, it's not going to
You
work.
go right along with those hypothetical trees.
That's right. That's right. So, all right.
So I
So
think
they walk
maybe
in.
when
go ahead.
the lieutenant sees him coming in, he steps over and he just starts speaking to Mrs. Doyle once more and just tells her that we'd like to go see the children's room.
Very well. I suppose that knowing a little bit more about my little ones would do some good. Very well. If that is what you require, then I would just ask that you would not disturb their belongings. I wish to not cause them stress for when they return. And she stops and looks to her side, and Mrs. Torbo basically, she's got her hands, clasped at her waist, and she says, "Very good, madam. I will see to them that they will be upstairs, looking into the children's room. I will supervise." And Mrs. Doyle says, "Thank you, Mrs. Torbo. I wish to. I apologize that I know that you've been hired for this particular job to help me in finding my children, and I wish to make sure that I. Sorry, I just wish to make sure that there is compensation that will be applied for you, and it shall be £1 a day each for your efforts. So I hope that it will not require much more than 2 days. But
because the good doctor has a date after that.
that's right. And more importantly, her husband comes back home. So
We can only hope, Madam Doyle. Now, I regret that I could not provide the less exciting evening that I may have preferred on coming here, but if there is anything I can do for you, I would be glad to help.
So she actually looks over and kind of sees you for the first time, because like her attention is kind of towards Lieutenant Blackwell for the time being, and her assumption is that that's who she's to talk to at this point. But then she hears her voice and looks over and says, Monsieur Joyeux, I thank you very much for coming. And she comes over and offers her hand, and in the whole traditional kiss the ring and that kind of thing. But she says, I'm delighted that you could make it. Yes, I'm sorry the timing of this. I suppose that Mr. Straub has already introduced everybody. And so she kind of looks around, and nobody says anything Pacific about it.
Yes, we've all met.
Right. Oh, good. I'm sorry. I don't know if this is something that you should be dragged into, but I did call you here for other purposes. But if I may play upon your talents, as it were, as Mrs. Tatham has told me that you do have some developed observational skills, perhaps you would be inclined to help these others in the efforts to find my children.
Mademoiselle Tatham is too kind, but she does indeed speak the truth. I would be glad to lend my services to these four.
Oh, most excellent. Very good.
Dove's trying really hard not to just roll his eyes at that one.
So, Lieutenant
Joy
Blackwell,
Joy can definitely feel the barely
barely concealed. So she looks over at Lieutenant Blackwell and says, I do trust that you'll be able to leverage Monsieur Joyeux's talents. He is quite adept, quite perceptive, as I've seen, and he has talents that I believe will be helpful to you. So the children's room, yes.
I am sure we'll use all of Joyeux's abilities.
We will put him to good use.
I am sure we will be to the utmost of his skill.
So she kind of looks at all of you and cocks her head a bit, and she thinks for a second, and then it seems like there's a part of her that obviously there's the concern for her kids, but then there's a part of her that's the normal Mrs. Doyle. And that kind of comes to the forefront for a moment, and she looks at the four of you or the five of you arrayed in front of her, and something clicks in her head, and she says, very good. Then I propose that you would work together, and it seems that has its precedent. Very well. I understand that you wish to see my children's room, so I will have Mrs. Torval take you up. Is there anything else that you require of me?
It would be nice if every one of your servants did not have to run and check with you every time we ask a simple question.
Well, it would be a good observance of decorum for them to do so. Otherwise, I would not want them to think they have more autonomy than they have, Doctor.
Not my
Mrs.
children.
Doyle, the good doctor only has the interest of your children at heart. We are attempting to gain as much information as possible in as short of a time as possible. So if you would be kind enough to encourage your staff to freely answer our questions with your instructions to do so, of course, just for the duration of this tragic, or not tragic, that's not the word I want to use. This trying
She passes out
situation.
now.
Trying
Let's try not to
situation.
make it tragic.
Yes.
Let's also have only one passing out today.
Yes, it would be greatly appreciated, and I'm sure it would hasten the return of your children to you.
Your attendant speaks well, Lieutenant Blackwell. I agree.
Attendant.
Very well. I will see that you have all of the answers that you require and all of the... I will make sure that they answer your questions as they are asked, and they do not need to check with me. Mr. Straub, see to it. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I will see to it immediately, yes. And he turns and heads out of the room, and then he stops for a second and turns around and looks past Dr. Loom and says, "Good heavens! Is that Carolyn on the couch? What has happened?" And he stumps forward and heads over to the couch, and Mrs. Doyle looks over and says, "Such a timid creature." And she glances over at Dove and then glances down at Dr. Loom and says, "I would imagine the level of perturbances this evening may have gotten the better of her. She was always so weak-willed."
A simple case of hypoxia. She will be fine.
Hypoxia, yes. Very well. I would assume that the doctor will be able to handle this. Again, she's kind of flowing back into that Mrs. Doyle thing versus, the concerned parent for this time period, it seems. Very well, then. Mr. Straub, please... whatever. Such a fragile thing. I don't know how she handles the children anyway. I'd find out. So she's starting to kind of turn around and leave the room. And Mrs. Torbo is standing there waiting, and she says, "So, you can leave Carolyn in front of Doc, or in front of Mr. Straub. He will take care of things. Please, if you wish to come upstairs, you may."
I'm gonna jump in and just kind of go. It seems to me that it has been. It is probably a small room, and there are many of us. Perhaps I am better suited to check the outside of the building. Perhaps if there is any sign of any sort of foul play in the stealing, disappearance of the children.
Okay. Let's see here.
What is it with Dove and splitting the party?
It's like a Scooby-Doo episode, man.
I know, right?
Oh, it's old man Jenkins.
No,
Sorry.
basically it's because his metagaming wise, his perception skill is going to be downright useless in the room, and also
It's fine. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Oh, I know. No, but this is me. I love giving in character reasons for stuff that I do. The other reason is that he's getting incredibly uncomfortable being in this rich person house. He's been here entirely too long.
Gotcha. Okay, does anybody else wish to accompany Dove?
I also think that if the kids were napped as opposed to just missing, there'd be some form of disturbance outside.
Yeah.
I think the lieutenant might actually have better skills outside than he would inside, but he might be needed inside, just to deal with the the staff and whatnot.
Yeah, I'm concerned. So Miss Russell is torn between accompanying Dove outside and leaving Dr. Loom alone with the rest of the staff.
Hey, think of it this way. He won't want to do anything shady because it would get back to Edna.
Yeah, his version of shady and the rest of our versions of shady are two very different things.
That's true.
There's shady, and then there's inappropriate, and then there's Dr. Loom.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, so is that a yes or no? Is Dove going by himself?
Miss Russell's going to go ahead and go with Dove.
All right.
She's possibly against her better judgment, but she's going to go.
Okay. So, all right. So, Mrs. Torbo, like, hears you saying that you're gonna head outside, and she like looks the bear up and down, or the bearman up and down, and Guten Eichentag sind werden es den Wein so sein. And she like kind of has like a disgusted look on her face, and she turns and she says, "Those of you coming along, please come with me." So
under his breath, he says basically in Russian, "I can say terrible things in another language too, you cow."
Lightly gasps.
And it's Dr. Loom we have to worry about.
That as quickly as possible.
so is German's not one of your languages, right?
I'm
No,
checking
it's
right
not.
now to make sure that I
It's
don't
not
speak
one of mine.
German.
Okay.
Basically, Dove does not like getting talked down to, and she's clearly talking down to him.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the only one in this house that has not proved themselves to be a hot mess is Lieutenant Blackwell.
Pretty much.
All right, so far.
I don't know. Yeah.
I
So,
got our boy a date. That's all I'm saying.
That's right. So no on the German, is that right?
I'm 99% sure. I can't get to the page quickly enough, but I'm 99% sure that I do not speak German.
All right, we'll go with that then.
One more.
If
But I
there
mean,
was a cuss word, I probably understood part of it.
Then
Sorry.
blah,
Skill
blah, blah,
list.
blah.
Got my notes.
Nope, no curse words in that one. And again, I apologize to the audience for my horrible German, but I'm using Google Translate, so there you go.
That'll always end well.
Yeah, that always ends well. Yeah, I could always just play the robot voice and have it say the German for you. So okay. So Mrs. Torbo leads you upstairs. So it's Lieutenant Blackwell, Dr. Loom, and Monsieur Joyeux, right?
Right.
Yep.
Okay. So
Three Stooges here.
so Mrs. Torbo is basically kind of bringing along Lieutenant Blackwell, and I guess Monsieur Joyeux and Dr. Loom are kind of following along behind. And Mrs. Torbo says, "So, Lieutenant, I understand that you have found time in the war."
Time that I care not to speak of.
Oh. Is there things that you've seen? Things that these... And she looks over her shoulder as Dove is kind of exiting towards the back with Monsieur Joy or Miss Russell. Things that the Russian bears have done to you?
This wars, and they're not lightly spoken of. So then the lieutenant would change the subject and try to get it back to, he tries to steer clear of that stuff. So he'll start asking like how well she knows Professor Smythe.
Oh, Herr Professor. He has good lessons, yes. He is good in his math, but his discipline is so lacking. Women, children of the age of Henrietta and Michael, they require a heavy hand sometimes. And Mrs. Doyle, she understands. Mr. Doyle, of course, does. But this professor, sometimes he lets them run. Was that the one that you use in English? They run slapshod, something, roughshod. He allows them to run roughshod over him, and it's not appropriate. So she's kind of heading up the stairs there. So is this a English thing that you do not talk about the war? Is that why?
It's just that the experiences are best left on the battlefield.
So, but if you look around inside the city, it is a battlefield, no?
Indeed, it is.
So you know that Herr Straub, he is also of military.
Oh, really?
Ah,
A man of his stature is hard to imagine on the battlefield.
well, yes, the dwarf so small, but yet he had carried himself well. Get medals, I think. I'm going.
really?
I'm going Russian for a second. Sorry. He's fast.
It's
He's
time
fast.
for me. Musical accent.
Musical accent. He was a vaulted son, I believe. Yes. Something.
And which unit was he with?
Let's see.
What unit did he serve with in those days?
The Umberland Fusiliers, I believe. Lost his leg. Yes, of course, the Doyles, they were very good to him. They provide new leg.
That seems unusual for an employer to provide such a benefit.
But if you know Herr Straub, you know that he is indispensable.
Oh, really? Has he proven himself useful in the household?
Of course. We would not have him here if he was not useful. You have all of these other youngsters that are around here, running around trying to serve. I have to keep them in line, but Herr Straub, he is also good at such things.
So as we're walking along, is Dr. Loom and Monsieur Joyeux behind us, or
Yeah,
not involved in the conversation as much?
Yeah. Trying to resist any sarcastic commentary.
Dr. Loom is probably rambling a little bit to Monsieur Joyeux.
Yeah, what's going on there?
And Monsieur Joyeux is just.
I don't understand what is wrong with that Eldrin woman. I ask for access to the staff, and she gets all huffy on me. Miss Russell says the same thing, and suddenly she's all, "Oh, of course you can talk to my staff. How is what she said any different than what I said?" That woman just doesn't like dwarves.
Yes, dwarves is the problem.
Dwarves is clearly the problem. Absolutely. Yes.
You're no helpful at all. Your observational powers and your spiritual beings. Oh, I feel my wallet is now lightened. This is the sum total of any user. He huffs up the stairs.
I see that doctor has served you well. Academics.
All right, cool. Then, all right, so you guys arrive up in the room, and you're able to start kind of looking around. So Mrs. Torbo stands at the door, opens it, and says, "I will trust that you can conduct yourselves appropriately. Of course, with Lieutenant Blackwell as supervising. I will be down the hall, and I will be working on some preparations for tomorrow morning. If you need anything, you have but to ring the bell," and she points towards a pull cord that's on just inside the door. "Good evening." And she clicks her heels together and bows and steps back and turns to leave.
Good evening. Thank you, ma'am.
So you guys want to start taking a look around. Let's how do you guys want to start doing your search?
Let's see here. Is there anything like just obviously out of the norm?
It's kind of like a typical children's room. It's got there's 2 beds in here. It's probably about 18 by 20 or 18 by 25. It's a pretty large room, but it has room for a couple of armoires, and it has a children's play area over in the corner. There's a couple of writing desks of varying heights, just to kind of allow for the children's separate heights there. There's a small bookshelf that's only about 3 shelves high so that the children can reach it. And then, like I said, there's the 2 beds that are there. Things are kept in pretty tidy order here. You're not sure if that's because of the kids are neat or if it's just servants help handling things.
Imagine it's more the servants than the children.
Probably.
Probably start just with looking for any signs of things out of place.
Okay.
Why not? Signs of...
Okay. No, sorry. Any signs of out of place, and then what?
Just anything out of place. Any signs of struggles? Any blood smears on the windowsill? I don't know.
Terrible.
Grim.
Very grim. Okay, so I'll have you guys then do this. I'll have you guys do perception checks for each of you. If you have something that will help you search, I think as Monsieur Joyeux has demonstrated before, you have some bonuses there for deduction. So you can go ahead and do that. So while that's happening, out back as you've exited into the evening, Dove and Miss Russell, so you guys have been shown through the back door. Edna waves hello. Oh, I'm so glad we like some more food. Are you all hungry? And
we're gonna politely just keep walking.
All right.
Yes. No, thank you.
Why didn't I go with them?
So she keeps stirring in the pot, and it looks like she's just about done with her work. Again, it's kind of late in the evening. She's kind of prepping things for the following day. So yeah, so you guys go back out into the evening, and you realize that just how nicely warm it's kept inside the house there. So because it's a little bit cool outside. And yeah, so you are outside in the evening right now. So do you guys want to do a search out here as well?
Yeah, I just want to circle the house, see if anything sticks out that looks out of place. Maybe some bushes that got squished, or like.
So
some
as we're
glass.
walking out in Russian, Miranda's gonna ask Dove, "What exactly are we looking for out here?" And of course, that's your answer, but. We don't even know if the children were taken forcibly. We don't know anything yet, so I'm not quite sure what we're looking for out here.
That is actually the point. We don't know anything. To do a proper search, we must see if there is any kind of broken up vegetation. Perhaps a bit of topiary, because these people have money and have such things. Or perhaps broken glass from a window, perhaps a break-in of that nature. Maybe they scaled the walls. I don't know until we see.
I am relatively certain that some of the staff would have noticed a broken window, but yes, we should at least scout around and see what we can see.
It's at this point that we keep. Well, I think we keep walking, but I kind of
Yes.
Did you see how that woman reacted just to us being there?
Which woman? That one, yes.
These people.
rather-
Is that German? I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Yes.
These people are scared for their jobs. They don't want to do anything that would get them in trouble. A broken window could easily be blamed on a serf.
I think they are afraid for their jobs, but for perhaps different reasons, my good sir.
It could be nothing, but I'd rather say we looked and found nothing than not to look.
We should look. We absolutely should look.
All right.
So
we'll have
continue
you guys
scouting around.
Yeah, whatever would serve you the best as far as what you're searching for. Let's go ahead and do it. If you want to do like a perception test, if you want to tie it in with an alternate attribute, we can definitely talk about and see how that looks.
What is
I think the only thing I'm gonna have is perception plus wits. So, but I don't know how. Let me think about that for a minute. Let's see here. What else do I have?
Okay. So while you guys are kind of
what is the definition of streetwise?
Streetwise.
Is it always?
I have that. Hang on, I have it handy.
I can't remember if it's just dealing with
With this
people
skill,
or if it's,
you know how to find the black market, talk to thugs, gain information, and so on. May also be used as an abstracted information gathering skill, allowing an adventurer to gain information from contacts. Also applies when you are trying to. Hang on, I can't see that.
it's
Trying to find something in an urban environment, so it is useful for a variety of. Basically, that's the rest of it.
Okay.
When shopping for the perfect gown for a spring ball, as it is when hiring someone to break legs.
Yes, I am trying to avoid perception checks. So you can totally say that's a load of garbage. You're not talking to people. You're walking through shrubbery.
Right.
But I figured I'd give it a shot.
Well, you know what? I could actually argue. I could argue for that, and here's the reason why: is that the way you described it to me, what you're trying to do, you're looking for the, I don't want to say criminal element, but you're looking for that angle. You're not looking at it from the perspective that, oh, the kids have gone missing. We've got to talk to people and do all this other kind of stuff. You haven't even got to that level yet, but you're already kind of using it in that way.
I'm basically call Dove a cynic, but he's automatically thinking that there was a mob down the street, rich people here with kids are missing. Maybe these things are connected.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you got it. I think that's a good way to go. So have you rolled that, Miss Russell? The way you're kind of looking at it, are you in a similar vein, or are you looking at more I'm just searching?
After hearing Dove's explanation, I'm going to be looking for the same types of things.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing I can think of that I could use maybe slightly differently is skill in science, to be looking at it from a more like clue searching type of way, to notice something. But I'm not sure that science is really great, but that was my stretch outside the box kind of thing.
By the way, Jeff, black dice, no black dice?
You're still having to use your eyes and everything, so I just go with your regular penalty for black dice on that.
Oh,
sorry.
All right, no worries.
Because when you're still using eyesight, so 1
and 1. I cancel out again.
Okay.
Well, let's do this. So you're kind of looking in a similar vein, though, right, Miranda?
Yes.
As far as what you're trying to do. So let's go ahead and have you roll your. What's better for you, streetwise or perception?
They're the same.
They're same. So go ahead and roll your streetwise. Have you come out with that? I'm not going to give you any black dice penalty at this point, just because. Well, no, 1 black dice because it is nighttime. But nope, take it back because it's very well lit here. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I rolled.
That's okay. That's okay. So I'm going to take away that one. And then you've got. Yeah, go ahead and just re-roll.
I still got that.
Reroll.
Reroll it. Okay.
Yeah. Where'd it go? Did it go? All right.
Did it go through? Yeah, 1 success on that one.
All right, Dove. You can roll another die. 1d6. So slash roll 1d6 greater than 6, 2 exclamation points. No spaces except for between the roll and the 1. Yeah.
All right. I'm typed it in exactly how you told me to. We'll see if this works.
And a 1. Nice. You got your success. Nice work. All right. So yeah, you're looking around here, and you find that on the side of the townhome, because again you have that kind of alley where the servants' entrance is, and there's an alley there, and there's topiary, as you said. There's actually a pair of
Of course there is.
Yeah, there's it's kind of like a line next to a trellis that goes up along the wall that has like that. For sunny Southern California, I'm thinking of bougainvilleas, but I'm thinking more of like a vine type thing that goes up. You notice that the topiaries are there, and you see that, and you're kind of about to smirk and just, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But Miranda is right there with you, and she says, "Don't look at the topiaries. Don't worry about that." And that's when you see it. It does look like the trellis here has gotten a lot of use. And
Huh.
as you look up, you see a light come on the window that the trellis goes to.
Let me guess. It's them in the kids' room.
And so we come back to the kids' room, and the
Uh-huh.
camera comes back. And let me go back to the roles here and see how we did. So Dr. Loom is clearly distracted by his thoughts of Edna.
My thoughts of Edna.
So I'm gonna say that.
The deltoids.
It's magnificent. Lieutenant Blackwell has no such hindrances at 3 successes. So good stuff there. All right, so let's take a look at those rolls. So Lieutenant Blackwell did well. Dr. Lum, unfortunately, no successes there. And then Monsieur Joyeux, 2 successes. So, okay. So as you're looking around the room, it's very typical children's fare. You've got school books. There's to Dr. Loom. Maybe you were distracted because there is a couple of science books that you see on the boys' desk. That appears that he may have some kind of they seem to be well thumbed through. Lieutenant Blackwell, though, you find underneath the girl's bed, you find a small box, like a cigar box, that type of thing, and you bring that out. And as you open it up, you are seeing it's almost kind of like a potpourri of things. In real life, you have a daughter, so I'm sure she had like little collections of things that she would kind of put into a box, and that's kind of very similar to what this girl is doing, Henrietta. But it's almost like a who's who of the city, which is kind of odd. The first thing you see that's right on the top that seems to have been handled quite a bit with, it's got little wrinkles and stuff like that. You see a ticket to a place called the Pavilion. And it has on there, what is it? I'm trying to remember. Performance of King Lear is on the ticket. There's also a couple of what looks like lug nuts, like for ceilings, like a load-bearing ceiling or load-bearing timbers. That you would use to fasten to the ceiling. So you have a couple of those. A few a couple of matchbooks that are in there. One is quite worn down, but it looks like it says something like 10. Like there's a 10 there, but then it's kind of like worn out, and on the bottom part it says pub.
Tin pub, okay.
Yeah, there's a middle word that's there you can't quite make out. And then, so that's one item that you found that's there. And then for Monsieur Joyeux, you're kind of looking like, where would you kind of start in the room? Is there a particular part where you would want to go?
I think probably along the edges, like the walls, the windows.
All right. So you're kind of looking along the edges of the room, and you find a place where there's the kind of the air ducting, not air duct, but it's like the old grating, has like the brass grate that's on there, and you notice that it's somewhat loose. So there's that. So what do you do?
It's worth investigating.
Okay, so you take a look. Do you have any like tools or implements or something that's with you that you might be able to pry it off? Or I'm just curious, like what you have in your gear set that might be helpful. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I don't think I fleshed out my what I actually have on me.
Oh, okay.
It's not in my.
Well, let's you kind of you bring out some kind of a tool or something.
Could undo screws with a coin. So.
There you go. Yeah. So you pull out a penny, and you're able to kind of undo the screws the rest of the way. And it looks like they've seen a lot of use as far as whatever is unscrewing and screwing and stuff. So you take the grating off, and the grating is about the size of, let's say, I'm looking at my monitor right now on my computer. It's about that size, so not too big. But inside you find two sets of shoes, and it's children's size shoes. One's a little bit bigger than, or actually no, they're about the same size because girl and boy, different ages, but their feet grow in different sizes, whatever. But one's distinctly a woman's or a girl's shoe, and one's distinctly a boy's shoe. But they're both kind of like boots, and they both have not a lot of dirt on them, but they've seen a lot of use. So there's that. So those are the items so far that you found in the room. Outside, so we're kind of like, you're kind of looking at the shoes, and we see Monsieur Joyeux kind of like sitting back on her heels. Maybe you've kind of crouched down on your knees, you're on your heels, and you kind of sit back and you're looking at the shoes, kind of studying them. And the camera kind of turns and sees over Lieutenant Blackwell's shoulder as he's looking inside this cigar box and seeing the tickets, the lug nuts, matchbook, and other items that are in there. And then the camera kind of goes out through the window, and as it comes out, it looks down, and you see the torch or the lamplit forms of Dove Poulsen and Miranda Russell as they're kind of looking up at the window. And Dove kind of like looks back down, and you're kind of thinking about what you're seeing here, and the wheels are turning as far as what you're thinking that's going on. And Miranda, as that's happening, you hear from down the alley, you hear the sound of someone crying.
Oh dear.
And that's where we'll break it.
Excellent.
So great episode.
We'll start off next time with Dove, do you hear that? And he'll say, no.
Yet I do not hear. Great job, you guys tonight. That was so awesome. I spent 3/4 of the time literally just sitting back and being entertained. So great work, everybody, all around. So we'll get together here hopefully very soon and continue with the investigation. And maybe, I know folks at home are probably wondering, when are we going to get out of this house? I would assume next episode we'll be able to do that, but there's just too much entertainment to be had here so far, at least in my humble opinion. So for all the hypothetical trees and the lovelorn ogres out there, continue playing games, have fun with this stuff. This is how people get together, and we're so glad to have you guys along for the ride. Looking forward to getting some more material out to you very soon. Thanks for tuning in.